Well, the one thing that I remember reading a comment somewhere on your Facebook page, where because the new track is a little bit different stylistically, sonically, where they said that they mentioned this difference. So does that do something to you that people have now certain expectations of what you do?
What with what we sound like?
Yeah, and especially now with the second record, people do have an expectation of.
It's an inevitable.
People are expecting it to sound the same. They should stop. Because that is when I get incredibly bored of musicians. Is when they do the same thing for 7 albums.
Yeah.
Well, I get bored when they do it for 2 albums. So I think I would get incredibly bored doing the same thing.
Like we wouldn't be able to keep playing the same stuff over and over again. The thing is that like the musicians who I love and have loved most are people who push what's acceptable. And sometimes it does take a while to adjust to it. But the thing is that the last record still exists. Like if you like that record, you don't have to stop listening to it. But actually, what we've tried to do is like push ourselves to do, to give a representation of us now. That was a representation of us then. And I feel like we can do much more than we could then. And this is a snapshot of us now. And it's, like, to me, much more exciting, I think.
Did you have a discussion or a conversation on where you wanted to go with the album?
We did, in New York, do you remember? When you were like, I have this crazy idea.
Yeah, I had an idea.
But we didn't know what it was going to sound like. But there was Dave had a sort of a revelation and tried to explain it to us as best he could. Everyone was very excited. But I think that helped. Yeah, it did. Literally everything you said has come true.
Yeah. What was the idea?
Well, the idea was what the record is.
What the record is,
okay.
Yeah.
So I got obsessed with all of these documentary films. Each film is like a little vignette, like a series of vignettes in each film of just interviews with crazy people.
Okay.
And then we were on the road and we were touring and meeting all of these amazing people with crazy lives, and strangers tell you amazing things.
If you ask.
Yeah. You talk to strangers, they start telling you these amazing stories, and I started recording them on my phone just for fun, just so I'd have the stories. So I have hours and hours of these conversations, and I guess my idea was to take the idea of those stories and start writing my own with a bit of autobiography in there.
Sure.
Take some of those ideas from those characters and create new characters. So each song on the record is a character, and they got so heavily scripted. I scripted all of these people to what they wear, what they eat, what their house looks like, what furniture they have, what their parents do as jobs. Everything was scripted, and then we cast them all as actors. And I guess that came after writing all the music, which was the main thing. Was writing the song for each of them, a theme song almost.
Right.
It's weird.
So if I have the track listing here, if we go through the tracks, which you say every track is kind of a persona or a character. Which one is closest to you yourself?
Closest to me. I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you. You have to listen to the album.
Okay.
But all of them, most of them have a bit of me. Some are totally autobiographical.
Is there one story then that you can share that you picked up along the way that stuck out for you?
What, that's on the album?
Well, it can be. Or
There's some that are on the album, some that, I mean, a lot of what we picked up along the way was too dark
okay.
and disgusting.
Really
sometimes.
fucked up
People
stuff.
tell you really awful stuff, really heartbreaking things, really terrible, sad stories. So some of that has made it off the album, but there's been some crazy ones. There's a guy just the other day, it's not on the album, but he told us that he went on this first date with this girl he really liked. He was sitting in the back of a car, and his other 2 friends who were on there.
This was an old man.
This is an old man.
This is back in the day.
Yeah.
In New York.
19. He'd gone to the club with his friends, and they were about to drive home. His 2 best friends in the front, who were a couple, and him and his new girl in the back seat. And they were sitting there kissing or whatever, and someone walked up to the car and shot the two people in the front seat with a gun and turned to shoot him in the head and pulled the trigger and it went click and had no bullets left.
Okay.
So those are the kind of stories that we have, all sorts of things. There's stories like that. We've got a story about how someone tries to give himself a blowjob every day but fails. We've got
How do you get people to the point where they tell you this?
Just ask
People are incredibly kind.
questions to people and they talk.
and you have to tell them stories too. It's a conversation. And
It is
meeting all of
amazing
these people
how
was incredible.
often how much people are willing to talk to strangers if you engage them in conversation and just ask.
I'm sure you've had it in a taxi or something. You start talking to someone, they tell you an amazing story.
And is that where the album title comes from as well? How to be a human being, because it's kind of an expose of all these characters or people.
Completely.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Okay.